Somewhere, right now, someone you have loved from a distance is sitting quietly with a truth about you that just cracked their heart wide open. And the strange part is, it did not push them away. It woke them up. Before we go further, drop the word awake in the comments below if you feel this message landing in your spirit right now. That one small word tells the universe you are ready to receive what comes next. This message found you today for a reason. If something told you to stop scrolling, to slow down, to actually listen, then trust that nudge. That is not an accident. That is your intuition doing its quiet work, pulling you towards something your heart already senses is unfolding. Somewhere, someone connected to your story has recently learned something about you that changed the way they see everything. Not in a confusing way, in a clarifying way. What they discovered did not make them doubt you. It made them look honestly at their own life, their own choices, and the relationships they have been holding onto out of habit, comfort, or quiet fear. This message is for you because your person, the one meant for you, may have just come face to face with a realization strong enough to make them question everything they once believed was enough. Listen closely because your heart needs to hear this right now. People often stay in situations long after their heart has already left. They stay because it feels familiar. They stay because change feels like too much. They stay because routine feels safer than the unknown. They stay because somewhere along the way, they convinced themselves that settling was easier than being honest. But life has a way of waking us up. It sends little signs, small truths, quiet moments that eventually become impossible to ignore. And suddenly, someone starts asking the harder questions. Am I actually happy? Am I emotionally full or just emotionally used to this? Am I living in a way that matches who I have grown into? Welcome to the Angel's Message for You original channel. Please check the channel name carefully. It's Angel's Message for You. This is our only official channel. Beware of copycat and fake channels. Stay connected to the original source to receive authentic angel messages and true blessings. Before we begin, a heartfelt thank you to Darian for sowing a seed for Soulmate through your Ko-Fi super thanks. May this seed return to you multiplied with soulmate blessings, divine protection, love, well-being, and abundance. May the angels guide and watch over you every step of your journey. Thank you for your beautiful support. Let's continue with Angel Message. Maybe your soulmate has been sitting with exactly these questions lately. Maybe something they learned about you cracked open a door to self-reflection they had been avoiding for a long, long time. Don't scroll past this. Your heart needs this right now. Somewhere recently, someone connected to your journey learned something meaningful about your heart. Maybe they learned how loyal you have always been, even when it was not returned. Maybe they heard about the quiet sacrifices you made without ever asking for credit. Maybe they finally understood just how much strength you carry underneath that calm, steady exterior of yours. Maybe they realized that through every disappointment, every hard season, every test life put in front of you, you kept choosing kindness. You kept choosing growth. You kept choosing to stay real, even when it would have been easier not to. And once they saw that clearly, they could not unsee it. They started comparing what they learned about you to the life they are actually living. They started asking themselves if they had been settling for less than what their soul truly wants. They started realizing that emotional safety matters more than appearances ever could. They started understanding that you cannot fake authenticity. You either have it or you do not. This message is for you because maybe, just maybe, someone out there is finally recognizing the exact qualities they have been searching for their whole life and realizing those qualities live in you. Listen to this because your heart needs this right now. So many people spend years believing relationships just need to function. Pay the bills. Keep the peace. Look fine from the outside. But eventually, something inside them wakes up and says, "This is not enough." Relationships need more than two people simply existing in the same space. They need real connection. They need honesty. They need softness and vulnerability. They need two people who actually see each other. Maybe your soulmate has arrived at that exact realization. Maybe they have understood that while one relationship gave them familiarity, it never gave them depth. Maybe they realized that they were physically present somewhere, but emotionally, they had already begun searching for something more meaningful without even fully admitting it to themselves. And learning the truth about you may have made that awareness impossible to ignore. Maybe they realized that your authenticity represents something they have quietly longed for their whole life, without knowing how to name it until now. This message found you because real, grounded people become mirrors. They reflect possibilities that others never even considered were possible. Genuine souls inspire growth without even trying. They remind people what peace actually feels like. They show people what real connection looks like simply by existing. Don't scroll past this. Your heart needs this right now. Picture someone sitting quietly after hearing something meaningful about you. Their mind goes still. They start replaying old memories. They remember conversations they once brushed off. They remember the moments your compassion quietly stood out. They remember your patience. They remember how emotionally steady you always were. They remember feeling safe around you, like they did not have to perform or pretend to be anyone else. And slowly, something clicks. They understand that being near you created peace. They understand that your realness created comfort. They understand that emotional fulfillment matters more than staying in something just because it is familiar. And that is when people start making decisions they once thought were impossible. Not out of impulse, but out of honesty. Not out of drama, but out of self-awareness. Decisions rooted in finally understanding what they actually value. Listen to this because your heart needs this right now. People fear endings because endings bring uncertainty. But not every ending is a loss. Some endings create space. Some endings create freedom. Some endings let a person finally build a life that actually matches their heart. Maybe your soulmate is living through exactly that right now. Maybe they realized they could not keep living according to expectations someone else placed on them. Maybe they understood deep down that they deserve honesty. Maybe they recognized that real connection deserves to be honored, not ignored. This message is for you because maybe someone connected to your path is finally becoming brave enough to choose honesty over comfort. Don't scroll past this. Your heart needs this right now. Maybe you have spent years quietly wondering if anyone truly saw your worth. Maybe you have questioned whether your kindness even mattered. Maybe you have wondered if your loyalty left any kind of lasting mark. But real people always leave a mark because authenticity is unforgettable. Emotional safety is unforgettable. Genuine compassion is unforgettable. People remember the ones who made them feel confident during their hardest seasons. They remember the ones who gave them peace instead of chaos. They remember the ones who offered understanding with no conditions attached. Those memories become quiet compass points, guiding future choices long after the moment has passed. Maybe someone connected to your story is being guided by those exact memories right now. Listen to this because your heart needs this right now. There are truths that change the way we see everything. There are realizations that stop people from settling for connections that leave their soul hungry. Maybe your soulmate recently understood that what they admired about you went far beyond attraction. Maybe they admired how you kept getting back up. Maybe they admired how you kept choosing love, even after being let down. Maybe they admired your honesty, and it inspired them to finally be honest with themselves too. This message found you because grounded, genuine people influence others simply by being who they are. They inspire reflection. They inspire courage. They show what emotional maturity actually looks like, just by living it. Don't scroll past this. Your heart needs this right now. Think about your own path for a moment. Think about how far you have come. Think about the nights uncertainty kept you awake. Think about the moments unanswered questions weighed on your peace. And yet, through all of it, you kept growing. You built patience. You set boundaries. You found resilience you did not know you had. You learned to respect yourself. You learned that your happiness cannot depend on whether someone else notices it. That growth matters. It shows wisdom. It shows healing. It shows someone who finally understands their own worth, with or without anyone else's approval. Healing rarely moves in a straight line. Comes in waves, some days feeling like real progress, other days feeling like standing still. But even on the days that felt like standing still, you were still healing quietly, in ways you could not always see in the moment. Every version of you that chose to keep going, even when giving up would have been easier, deserves recognition. That version of you built the foundation that someone else is now, quietly, beginning to notice and admire. This message is for you because your growth deserves to be honored too. You did not just survive your story, you transformed through it. And that transformation is exactly what someone out there is now recognizing in you. Listen to this because your heart needs this right now. Maybe you have felt subtle nudges lately that are hard to explain. Maybe your dreams feel more vivid than usual. Maybe a certain song keeps finding its way back into your day, over and over, tied to a memory you cannot quite shake. Maybe you keep glancing at the clock at 11:11, or 2:22, or 4:44, and it feels like more than coincidence. Some people believe these small nudges are simply the mind noticing patterns. Others believe they are quiet messages from something greater, guiding us gently toward awareness at exactly the right moment. However you choose to see it, one thing tends to stay true. These little moments rarely arrive without meaning. They tend to show up right when we need a small reminder that we are exactly where we are supposed to be. Whether you see these moments as spiritual signs or simple coincidence, they gently remind you that transformation happens quietly, behind the scenes. People change slowly in their own time. Understanding deepens gradually, layer by layer. And eventually, people recognize what truly matters, once their heart is finally ready to receive it. Maybe someone connected to your journey is finally ready now. Maybe they are facing fears they used to run from. Maybe they are realizing that emotional distance is something they no longer want to accept as normal. Maybe they are understanding that real connection needs honesty, communication, and mutual care to survive. Don't scroll past this. Your heart needs this right now. There is a kind of tiredness that comes from constantly proving your worth to people who were never going to see it anyway. And there is a kind of peace that comes when you finally stop doing that and simply let your life speak for itself. Maybe your soulmate is starting to understand that peace now because of you. Human connection was never meant to feel like a performance. It was never meant to feel like walking on eggshells or shrinking yourself just to keep someone comfortable. Real love, the kind your soul actually longs for, feels like being able to breathe. Feels like being fully seen and still fully accepted. Dear soul, before we continue, I'd like to invite you into a simple act of faith for your soulmate journey. If today's message is speaking to your heart, Your soulmate may be walking through a season of difficult choices, uncertainty, or emotional change. This is a time when they need God's wisdom, peace, and protection more than ever. If you feel led, you can sow a seed through Ko-Fi Super Thanks using the link in the description or the pinned comment. Let your gift become a heartfelt prayer saying, "Lord, watch over the one you have chosen for me. Guide their steps, protect their heart, and lead us according to your perfect timing." This isn't about purchasing a blessing or changing God's plan. It's simply a personal expression of faith, love, and trust that He is already working behind the scenes, even when you cannot yet see the whole picture. May God surround both you and your soulmate with His peace, His protection, and His perfect guidance. May every step draw you closer to the future He has prepared for you. Maybe your soulmate is starting to crave that kind of love now, the kind they only understood was possible once they learned more about your heart. Listen to this because your heart needs this right now. Somewhere, someone is learning that comfort and true happiness are not the same thing. They may have spent years telling themselves that steady is enough, that stable is enough, that quiet is enough. But somewhere deep down, they know their spirit has been asking for more. Not more drama, not more chaos, more depth, more honesty, more warmth. Maybe learning something real about you is what finally gave them permission to admit that to themselves. This message is for you because sometimes we do not chase people. We simply live our truth, and the right ones eventually find their way back to us, once they are finally ready to receive what we always had to offer. Don't scroll past this. Your heart needs this right now. There is something sacred about a person who keeps choosing softness in a world that often rewards coldness. There is something powerful about someone who keeps choosing honesty, even when silence would be easier. If that person is you, know this: your energy has never gone unnoticed. It may have simply been unrecognized until now. Maybe your soulmate is finally catching up to what your soul has known all along. That real love is not supposed to feel exhausting. It is supposed to feel like home. Listen to this because your heart needs this right now. People often confuse familiarity with fate. They stay with what is known, mistaking comfort for connection. But eventually, the universe has a way of gently interrupting that pattern. It sends reminders. It sends realizations. It sends the kind of quiet awakening that makes someone finally stop and ask, "Is this really what I want for the rest of my life?" Maybe that awakening is happening for your soulmate right now, and maybe you are the reason it started. This message found you because you were never meant to shrink yourself to keep the peace. You were never meant to convince anyone of your worth. Your worth simply is. It exists whether or not someone else has recognized it yet. Don't scroll past this. Your heart needs this right now. Imagine someone hearing something meaningful about you and feeling that truth settle into their chest. Unexpectedly, deeply. Maybe they finally understood the extent of your loyalty. Maybe they learned how deeply you cared for the people who mattered to you, even during seasons when you received very little in return. Maybe they heard about your resilience, your softness, your willingness to keep showing compassion even after your own heart had been bruised. And suddenly, they start comparing those qualities to the life they are currently living. They start asking themselves honestly, am I fulfilled or just comfortable? Have I been settling for familiar, while quietly longing for something deeper underneath? This message is for you because real people often become the mirror that reveals a truth someone else has been avoiding for a long time. Listen to this because your heart needs this right now. Every soul carries a certain rhythm, a certain frequency, that only certain people are able to truly feel. Most people brush past it. They notice the surface, the appearance, the convenience of the moment, and never slow down long enough to feel the deeper rhythm underneath. But every once in a while, someone finally slows down enough to feel it. And once they do, they cannot go back to only noticing the surface again. Maybe your soulmate is finally slowing down enough to feel your rhythm. Maybe they are noticing, for the first time, the deeper current that has always been there, patiently waiting to be recognized. Don't scroll past this. Your heart needs this right now. There is an old idea, found in many spiritual traditions, that some connections are written before we ever meet the other person. Not because everything is fixed or certain, but because some souls simply recognize each other on a level deeper than logic. Maybe you have felt that kind of recognition before, a feeling that could not quite be explained with words, only felt in your chest. If your soulmate is currently experiencing a quiet awakening connected to you, it may be exactly this kind of recognition finally rising to the surface after being buried under distraction, fear, or timing that was simply not right yet. Listen to this because your heart needs this right now. Energy has a way of lingering long after words are spoken or forgotten. The way you made someone feel does not disappear just because time has passed. It stays somewhere quiet in the background of their memory, waiting for the right moment to resurface. Maybe that memory is resurfacing right now, gently, persistently, refusing to be ignored any longer. Don't scroll past this. Your heart needs this right now. Some people spend years convincing themselves that feeling disconnected is just part of growing up. They tell themselves everyone loses that spark eventually. They tell themselves relationships naturally become practical over time. And then, one day, they meet someone or hear about someone whose presence reminds them that real emotional depth still exists. Someone whose energy brings comfort instead of confusion. Someone whose authenticity proves that love does not have to feel exhausting to be real. Maybe your soulmate found that reminder through learning more about you. Maybe they realized your ability to stay compassionate through hardship reflects an emotional depth they deeply admire. Maybe they understood that your authenticity represents exactly what they have been quietly missing, without knowing how to describe it. Until now. This message found you because genuine people change lives simply by being themselves. They do not need to demand attention. They do not need to prove anything. Their steadiness, their kindness, their honesty naturally leaves an impact. Real people remind others what peace feels like. They remind others what trust feels like. They remind others that connection is supposed to bring growth, not exhaustion. Maybe your soulmate is understanding that now. Maybe they are realizing that what drew them to you was never something surface level. It was something deeper. It was your resilience. It was your ability to keep believing in real connection, even after being hurt. It was your willingness to stay genuine in a world that often teaches people to hide. Don't scroll past this. Your heart needs this right now. Big decisions take courage because they force people to face uncomfortable truths. They force people to acknowledge feelings they have been avoiding. They force people to release the old story and step into something unknown but real. But courage was never about having zero fear. Courage is understanding that authenticity matters more than temporary comfort ever could. Maybe your soulmate is discovering that truth right now. Maybe they are realizing that staying in something that leaves their heart hungry is no longer sustainable. Maybe they are understanding that real happiness cannot be built on routine and obligation alone. Happiness needs alignment. Happiness needs honesty. Happiness needs choosing situations that make the heart feel alive, not just situations that keep things quiet and convenient. Listen to this because your heart needs this right now. Maybe you have spent years wondering if anyone truly saw your value. Maybe you have questioned if your loyalty ever mattered to anyone. Maybe you have wondered if your kindness left any real trace behind. But real people always leave a trace, because authenticity is unforgettable. Emotional safety is unforgettable. True compassion is unforgettable. People remember who made them feel steady during uncertain seasons. They remember who gave them comfort instead of chaos. They remember who offered them understanding without asking for anything back. Those experiences become quiet reference points, guiding decisions long after the moment has passed. Maybe someone connected to your story is being guided by exactly those memories right now. Maybe they are finally realizing that your presence represented something they have struggled to find anywhere else. This message is for you because your own journey deserves to be honored too. Think about everything you have overcome. Think about the nights uncertainty sat heavy on your mind. Think about the moments unanswered questions disturbed your peace. And still, you kept growing. You built patience. You set boundaries. You found resilience. You learned self-respect. You learned that your happiness was never meant to depend on someone else's timing. That transformation matters because it shows wisdom. It shows healing. It shows someone who understands their own worth, no matter what anyone else chooses to do with it. Don't scroll past this. Your heart needs this right now. Maybe you have noticed small, quiet signs lately. Maybe your dreams have felt unusually vivid. Maybe a certain song, tied to a meaningful memory, keeps showing up out of nowhere. Maybe you keep catching repeating numbers like 1111 or 222 or 444, and it feels like more than just chance. Whether these little moments feel spiritual or simply meaningful to you, they are gentle reminders that change happens quietly, behind the scenes. People shift slowly. Emotional understanding deepens over time. And eventually, people recognize what truly matters, once their heart is finally open enough to receive it. Maybe someone connected to your journey is finally open now. Maybe they are facing fears they have avoided for years. Maybe they are realizing that settling for emotional distance no longer feels okay. Maybe they are understanding that real relationships need honesty, real communication, and mutual appreciation to actually survive and grow. Maybe they are realizing that your example is exactly what showed them something more meaningful was possible, something more aligned with who they are becoming. Listen to this because your heart needs this right now. Pause for a moment. Before we continue, your angels are asking me to pause for a moment. Not everyone was meant to hear this today, but if these words found you, there may be a reason. If you've been seeing repeated signs, feeling disconnected from the life you're living, or sensing that something bigger is trying to unfold for you, this message may be arriving at exactly the right time. Your angels want you to understand something. Sometimes blessings don't arrive by changing what's around you. They arrive by changing the reality you're aligned with. Many people spend years praying for abundance, love, protection, and breakthroughs while unknowingly remaining connected to the same old patterns, fears, and limitations. But today, your angels are reminding you that a different path may already be available to you. A path where you feel more aligned with your purpose. A path where opportunities seem to find you. A path where your manifestations begin flowing with greater ease. This isn't about forcing outcomes. It's about becoming energetically available for the blessings that have been trying to reach you. I truly believe some of you were guided to this message because you felt stuck for far too long. You've prayed. You've waited. You've asked for a sign. And perhaps this moment is one of those signs. The universe often opens doors quietly before it opens them widely. What looks like a simple opportunity today can become the very thing that shifts your direction tomorrow. Divine timing rarely feels accidental. And if your heart feels pulled toward this, pay attention to that feeling. If this resonates with your spirit, take a moment to explore the resource we've placed in the description and pinned comment below. Don't ignore the nudge if you feel one. Sometimes receiving a blessing begins with taking a small step when the door first appears. The information is waiting for you in the description and pinned comment. Now continue with your angel message. There is a quiet strength in the person who keeps showing up as themselves, even when no one is applauding it. There is a quiet strength in choosing honesty over convenience again and again, even when it would be so much easier to just go along with what everyone else expects. If that describes you, understand something clearly: that strength was never invisible. It was simply waiting for the right person to finally notice it. Maybe your soulmate is that person, and maybe they are noticing it right now, for the very first time in a way that actually feels real. Don't scroll past this. Your heart needs this right now. There is a difference between being with someone and truly being known by someone. Many people spend years mistaking one for the other. They share a home, share routines, share responsibilities, and still feel completely unseen underneath it all. It is one of the loneliest feelings a person can carry, being surrounded by familiarity while starving for real understanding. Maybe your soulmate has been living inside that exact quiet loneliness. Maybe they never had the words for it until something about you gave them the clarity they needed. Maybe learning the truth about your heart showed them, without a doubt, what it actually feels like to be truly known by someone. And once a person tastes that kind of understanding, even secondhand, even from a distance, it becomes very hard to settle for anything less again. Listen to this, because your heart needs this right now. Growth rarely arrives with a warning. It usually arrives quietly, in an ordinary moment, through an ordinary conversation, through a memory that suddenly means something different than it used to. Maybe your soulmate had one of those ordinary moments recently. Maybe it was a passing comment. Maybe it was a memory that resurfaced out of nowhere. Maybe it was simply hearing your name and feeling something shift inside their chest that they were not prepared for. Whatever it was enough to open a door that had been closed for a long time. And once that door opens, it rarely closes again the same way. This message is for you because sometimes the biggest shifts in someone's life begin with the smallest, quietest realization. Don't scroll past this. Your heart needs this right now. Maybe you have wondered quietly, in your own private moments, whether you were ever truly appreciated the way you deserve to be. Maybe you gave more patience than you received. Maybe you offered more understanding than was ever returned. And in those quiet moments of doubt, it is easy to start believing that your effort went unnoticed. But nothing real ever truly disappears. Every ounce of kindness you gave, every bit of patience you offered, every moment you chose grace instead of bitterness, it all left an imprint somewhere, planted a seed. And seeds do not disappear just because we cannot see them growing yet. They simply need time and the right season to finally break through the surface. Maybe that season is arriving now, for someone connected to your story. Listen to this, because your heart needs this right now. There is something powerful about a person who continues to believe in love, even after love has disappointed them before. There is something powerful about someone who refuses to let past hurt turn into permanent bitterness. If that sounds like you, know that kind of resilience is rare. It is the kind of quality people search entire lifetimes to find in another person, and rarely do. Maybe your soulmate is beginning to understand just how rare that quality actually is. Maybe they are realizing they let something meaningful sit quietly in the background for far too long, simply because they did not yet have the awareness to recognize its value. Don't scroll past this. Your heart needs this right now. Sometimes the universe works through timing rather than words. It nudges people gently, again and again, until they finally slow down enough to notice what has been in front of them all along. Maybe your soulmate has been receiving these nudges quietly, small moments, small memories, small realizations stacking on top of each other until they became impossible to overlook. And maybe, without fully realizing it, you played a part in that awakening. Not by chasing, not by convincing, simply by being consistently, quietly, honestly yourself. Listen to this because your heart needs this right now. Real transformation is rarely loud. It does not announce itself with fireworks. It arrives in small internal shifts, a change in perspective here, a moment of honesty there, until one day a person realizes they simply cannot go back to how things used to be. Maybe your soulmate is somewhere in the middle of that quiet transformation right now, piecing together a new understanding of what they actually want their life and their heart to feel like. And maybe your story, your energy, your example became the quiet spark that started it all. Don't scroll past this. Your heart needs this right now. No matter what anyone else chooses, your worth stays exactly the same. You were already whole. You were already enough. You were already deserving of honesty, of communication, of real effort from someone who truly values you. Keep protecting your peace. Keep nurturing your dreams. Keep honoring your growth. Keep becoming someone who values authenticity, emotional maturity, and self-respect, because that is who you already are. And if your soulmate really did walk away from something after learning the truth about you, maybe it was never about asking them to change. Maybe it was simply because your authenticity sparked reflection they could no longer avoid. Maybe your resilience gave them the courage they needed. Maybe your emotional depth reminded them that real connection still exists, somewhere, waiting for the right timing. Maybe your presence became a quiet reminder that life is far too short to spend inside something that no longer fits the heart. And maybe, just maybe, they are finally understanding that real connection is rare. Emotional safety is priceless. And genuine, honest souls become impossible to forget once their true worth is finally seen clearly. There is a particular kind of peace that comes when you finally stop trying to make someone understand your worth and simply let time do that work for you. Time has a way of revealing things that arguments never could. It shows people exactly what they walked away from, exactly what they overlooked, exactly what they were too distracted, too scared, or too unaware to appreciate in the moment. Maybe time is doing that work right now, quietly, in the background of your soulmate's life. Maybe every day that passes brings a little more clarity. Maybe every quiet moment brings a little more honesty. And maybe, eventually, that clarity becomes impossible to ignore. Listen to this because your heart needs this right now. It can feel strange, even painful, to imagine that someone had to lose something or leave something in order to appreciate what they once overlooked. But that is often exactly how growth works. People rarely change because everything feels comfortable. They change because something finally becomes uncomfortable enough to force real honesty. Maybe your soulmate needed exactly that kind of discomfort to finally see clearly. Maybe they needed the contrast, the comparison, the quiet ache of missing something real before they could fully understand what they actually want. Don't scroll past this. Your heart needs this right now. You were never meant to shrink yourself to be understood. You were never meant to over-explain your feelings just to be taken seriously. You were never meant to convince anyone that your love, your loyalty, or your presence mattered. Real recognition does not require convincing. It simply requires time and the right kind of awareness. Maybe that awareness is arriving now, for someone who once overlooked what was standing right in front of them. Listen to this because your heart needs this right now. There is a version of love that asks you to be smaller, quieter, easier to manage. And there is a version of love that simply asks you to be yourself, fully, without apology. The first kind may feel safe for a while, but it slowly drains something inside you. The second kind may feel uncertain at first, but it slowly fills you back up. Maybe your soulmate is beginning to understand the difference between those two kinds of love. Maybe they are realizing which one they actually want to build their life around, now that they have had the chance to compare. Don't scroll past this. Your heart needs this right now. Sometimes the most powerful thing you can do is simply keep living your truth quietly, without trying to prove anything to anyone. Not out of indifference, but out of self-respect. Because the right recognition was never meant to be chased. It was only ever meant to arrive in its own timing, once someone became ready to truly see what had been there all along. Maybe that timing is arriving now. Maybe it already has, quietly, somewhere in the background of a life connected to yours. Listen to this because your heart needs this right now. Some people enter our lives to teach us a lesson. Others arrive simply to wake up the parts of us that have been quietly waiting for a very long time to finally come alive. If this message found you today, it found you for a reason. Trust your timing, trust your heart, and trust that whatever is meant for you is already making its way back home. Dear beautiful soul, this angel's message for you channel is a sacred spiritual home, created for faith, healing, and divine guidance. A place where hearts awaken and lives are gently transformed through divine messages. We warmly invite you to subscribe and stay connected, because the divine is always preparing something greater for your journey, something you are meant to receive in divine timing. If you feel moved to support this mission, you can sow your seed here for your soulmate blessings and divine love fulfillment. Your contribution is not just support. It is an energetic agreement with love, healing, and divine alignment in your own life. When you give with intention, it opens doors. Love flows more freely, happiness expands, and abundance multiplies in unexpected ways. Many believe that giving in faith activates a return of peace, joy, and emotional fulfillment in relationships and life. Whether it is $11, $22, $33, or $55, your generosity helps us continue spreading these divine messages of hope, healing, and soulmate guidance across the world. Every seed sown into this mission helps hearts heal, faith return, and souls reconnect with love. This is more than a channel. It is a movement of light, unity, and divine timing. Your support allows this sacred work to grow, touching lives that are searching for answers, comfort, and spiritual direction. We are all connected in this journey, and together we rise as one community under divine love. Let us open our hearts to the abundance that is already on its way. Amen.